Hi and welcome to Real Reviews, where today I'm going to be talking May December, which is a new film from Todd Haynes. It stars Natalie Portman, Julianne Moore, and is on limited release in cinemas as we speak. Let's dive in, shall we? So from the outset, fans of Todd Haynes are going to feel in very familiar territory, because this is a very vicarious movie in terms of you do feel quite intrusive as an audience member watching this story unfold, because what you have is Natalie Portman plays Elizabeth. She is a well-known actress. She's turning up to do research on her character. Her character happens to be Gracie, played by Julianne Moore. And the point of it is that Gracie is husband and wife with, or wife and husband, with Joe, who is played by Charles Melton. He is much younger, or he was much younger when they first met. She was in her 30s, if I remember rightly, in the film, and he was barely in his teens, so he's probably 13, 14 years old. He might be slightly older, you'd have to check on that, but the point of it is that it's about small town opinions and prejudice. It's about the way that the media gets hold of something and blows it out of proportion, and also how relationships with age gaps were frowned upon back 20 years ago, when there was less equality, at least mainstream, within mainstream media, and the idea of Me Too movements and things of that nature hadn't surfaced. So I mean, also what it also does very cleverly is it examines the idea of performance and how people put on personas and different faces, different masks for different audiences, different people, different friendship groups. And Haynes is infinitely interested in that subterfuge and those sort of subsections of society. The example which springs to my mind is Carr, where you have Rooney Mara and you had Kate Blanchett, and obviously they were involved in a lesbian relationship, but it was the 50s when such things were frowned upon, and you could, men could get arrested for sleeping with men up until I think the 60s or something like that. But we're into naked civil servant territory there with Quentin Crisp, so a different conversation. But the idea remains the same. So this idea of identities and attractions and social perceptions is very much at the heart of May December, as well as it's obviously quite dramatic, and it has very pithy, funny moments to it as well. So let's move on. Let's move on to the meat and potatoes. Now, in certain critical reviews, both Natalie Portman and Julianne Moore have been earmarked early on for shall we say, Oscar nominations in their respective roles. They are both excellent actresses, and they're both, they're not unrecognised by the Academy Awards. But for me, as clever and as prevalent and as socially on point as May December might be, and as juicy as those particular roles might be for the respective actresses, from my point of view, to a certain extent, it didn't hit. I mean, this doesn't make it. Doesn't mean it's not a great movie for a Sky original. But for whatever reason, this isn't new ground. It didn't feel fresh. The stuff that did feel fresh was the way that Haynes would linger, where the camera would linger on a specific image. There's an image early on in the film where Joe is at the barbecue and he's just barbecuing hot dogs, and the camera's there for probably maybe 30 to 40 seconds, maybe a minute longer than it needs to be, and to the point where it almost feels uncomfortable for the audience. And this, from my point of view, it's not the interactions, which, although they're good, that's not the challenging element of May December. It's the way he's making the film. It's the way he's making the audience slightly edgy and sort of drawing them in to make them complicit in the whole, to make a judgment call on the whole situation, the whole story, and the what these two women ultimately are trying to get out of this relationship, which is not friendship, by the way. So that's my take. So I'm going to move on and dive into the rating now. Let's do that. Right, so it's not very often that I give half measures, but I'm going to give this a 3.5 on the big old 5 scale, because as good as this is not vintage Haynes, not by any means. This is not stuff that we haven't seen him do before, on you know, to an equal degree of perfection almost. But it's the way that the camera lingers. It's the way that he makes the audience complicit in this sort of moral fable, and it calls them out to make a judgment call. That's what makes it interesting, but ultimately it doesn't quite bring it up to a 4, at least in my estimation. So on that note, I'm going to move on to the trailer. Let's do that next. And so it is, we've reached the end of the review for May December, which is the new Todd Haynes movie, Sky Original, which is currently out in cinemas and stars Natalie Portman and Julianne Moore. This is the bit of the video where I go, if you've liked it, then give me a thumbs up. If you want to drop a comment in the comment box below, then feel free and let me know your thoughts, because I love to read. And finally, if you would like to subscribe, then every Tuesday, every Saturday, when I drop another one of these videos, then you will get a little notification, and then you can watch or listen to as much or as little as you like, and then go about your day. So in the meantime, be sure to click on my Patreon link and check out the page, and always have a look at the rest of the channel. How about that? Until next time, take care. Bye.